Hello guys, welcome back to Envision Academy. In this video, I'll be sharing a part of story of Heidi's life. It was written by Johanna Cypri. Heidi awoke the next morning to a shrill whistle. She opened her eyes and saw the sun pouring in through her window. It shone on the hay, making it look like a pile of gold. For a moment, Heidi was not sure where she was. Then she heard her grandfather's voice outside and it all came back to her. She jumped out of her bed quickly, dressed and scrambled down the ladder. Peter and his flock were already outside. Little Swan and Little Bear were just coming out of their goat hut with grandfather. Heidi ran over to wish them all good morning. Would you like to go climbing with Peter and the goats? Grandfather asked. Heidi jumped with joy. Go and wash first, or else the sun will laugh at you. Grandfather pointed to a bucket of fresh water waiting by the door. When Heidi had splashed and scrubbed herself shiny and clean, she scampered back to her grandfather. He was loading Peter's sack with extra food. Take good care, grandfather said to Peter, and give Heidi a bowl of milk at noon. Peter nodded, and the whole flock started up the trail. Heidi skipped ahead with Little Bear, stopping here and there to look at the flowers. There were tiny bunches of pink blossoms growing by the rocks. The far hills were covered with dots of blue and specks of yellow. Heidi picked flowers of every color and carried them in her skirt. She darted quickly here and there. Even Peter, who was used to keeping track of goats, sometimes had trouble finding her. If you pick them all, there won't be any left for tomorrow, Peter laughed. The folk climbed up and until they came to a midway of the base of a high cliff. Here the goats nibbled on the herbs and grasses as Peter stretched out to rest under the sun. Heidi put her flowers in the lunch bag and took a good look around. The white valley yawned below. Above the jagged mountain tops stretched into the blue sky. Heidi sat very still, watching the wind play with the grasses and flower stems. She drank in the sunshine and felt wonderfully happy. Sometime later, a large blackbird circled high overhead. His piercing cry woke Peter and he began to unpack their lunch. While Peter milked Little Swan, Heidi jumped about with the goats. Stop your jumping and come and eat, Peter called when Heidi's bowl was full of milk. Heidi was so excited that she could not eat all of the bread and cheese her grandfather had packed for her. When she had eaten her fill, she pushed the rest over to Peter. You may have the rest, I am full. Peter's eyes grew wide. He was not sure what to say. Never in his life had he been enough full to give food away. He was not sure he should take it. Please, Heidi said, it's for you. Peter smiled and took a bite. It was delicious. Soon his belly was as full as Heidi's. He settled back to watch Heidi play with the goats. What are the goats' names? Heidi asked him. Peter knew them all. Though he was only 11, he had been herding the goats for several years. He collected them each morning in little village and took them home again each night. While Heidi darted back and forth among them, he called out the name of each goat. There was Turk with huge horns, who was always butting the smaller goats. There was Fink, who was brave. He ran at Turk again and again, even though he was only half of Turk's size. And there was also a little goat that would bleat and bleat so much that Heidi would put her arms around her. That was Hopely. Why does she cry? Heidi asked Peter. Because her mother was sold and doesn't come up the mountain anymore, Peter explained. Don't cry, Heidi told roughly. I will come up with you every day. Then you won't be lonely. The little goat quieted down and rubbed her head on Heidi's shoulder. Of all the goats, Little Swan and Little Bear were the finest. Even Peter thought so. They are the finest because our uncle brushes them and washes them and gives them the best shade, he said with a note. All too soon, the light began to change. The snow high on the hills turned rosy red, and the blackbird returned to circle and cry. Peter started down the mountain, but Heidi did not want to. It had been a perfect and beautiful day, and she was sad to see it go. But she followed Peter and the goats down the mountain to her grandfather's house. Grandfather was sitting outside his hut, waiting for the folk to return. Little Swan and Little Bear ran to see their master and licked the salt he held for them in his hand. Did you have fun, Heidi? Asked Grandfather. Oh, yes, Heidi told him. I will forever remember that what I saw today. But you can see it all again tomorrow, Heidi, Peter said. Heidi's heart leaped. She looked at her grandfather hopefully. May I? May I really, grandfather? Of course, her grandfather laughed. You may go up the mountain every day until winter. Heidi jumped up and down. She hugged Little Swan and Peter and talked rapidly to her grandfather. Oh, it is so wonderful up there, she cried. There are so many flowers and a blackbird and snow on the mountain tops that turns red in the sunlight. Then Uncle smiled and pointed Heidi towards the washtub. Yes, yes, he said. Now, why don't you go and bathe? I will fetch the milk and you can tell me all about it over supper. Hope you liked the story. Thank you.